Thank you, Ravi. Quite an introduction there. Thank you very much. And it really is a pleasure to have been asked, given my keen involvement with India, its research, its education, and importantly, the planned reforms. And of course, the PhD students from India, whose commitment to excellence we've always valued in Australia. We've heard from Ravi earlier today about the difficult times we're in. And I know I won't be the only speaker to say today that when we find our new normal post-COVID way of life, living and working finally resuming, then my regular visits to India to progress our already solid Group of 8 relationship will be at the top of my must-do list and that of many others. Before I begin discussing today's topic, the roadmap to recovery, I do want to say, I hope, fingers crossed, that technology refuses to be temperamental and enables us to have an enjoyable, productive and uninterrupted conversation together. One that shows just how much we're all on the same wavelength about the future aspirations of joint India-Australia relationships. It used to be sort of the thing to do to begin a presentation such as mine today with a joke to engage those in the room, or the Zoom room as we've got now. But frankly, 3/4 of the way through 2020, let's be honest, there's not really a lot to joke about. I'm often asked to comment about the green shoots of COVID recovery. For the higher education sector in Australia, those shoots are yet to sprout. We know it is only a matter of time and it will happen, but there is no clear timeline, and that is both a sadness and a great frustration. It is eased somewhat by the fact that we also know we're not alone. India, like so many productive nations, has been absolutely shattered by the pandemic, with ramifications worse than any Australia has to date suffered. And I want to say I'm genuinely sorry for anyone joining us today who has endured having their family suffer. I find in these past months that I have appreciated a quote from Michelle Obama, which says, and I quote, "You should never view your challenges as a disadvantage. Instead, it's important for you to understand that your experience facing and overcoming adversity is actually one of your biggest advantages." As we all know of and worry about people who are sick and of jobs lost, of family budgets that are stretched far too tight for comfort, and in our sector also of students left thousands of kilometres away from where they've chosen to study, of our invaluable research which has been stalled, our researchers made redundant, we all, I'm sure, feel that adversity has tested us long enough in a year that has brought locust plagues, bushfires here in Australia, and floods, as well as COVID-19. But to those listening and watching who know me, they also know that I am a glass half full person. I'll always choose to see the positive in any situation, and even now I do, because none of us, for the generations we're educating in the skills to build tomorrow's world as one new and better, can afford to let COVID beat us, and we won't. Ravi has eloquently discussed the challenges ahead, and I want to address those from my perspective. First, let's put those challenges in context. When we eventually reconnect face-to-face and grasp the opportunity to rebuild in better ways, Australia and India are not starting from scratch. In fact, we're very fortunate to have solid, trusting and deep relationships which have been established over many, many years, and we'll be able to draw on those. We've built enduring working partnerships. I know we all remain willing and able to move forward together with a common goal. India is a dear friend to Australia, one of our closest. As Prime Minister Modi said in a virtual summit with Prime Minister Scott Morrison in just June this year, and I quote, "India-Australia relations are not only comprehensive, but also very deep. And this comes from our shared values, shared interest, and shared objectives. In the last few years, that has been good momentum in our cooperation and coordination. I believe that this is the perfect time and perfect opportunity to further strengthen India-Australia relations." And remember, he said that right in the middle of COVID. What he said was correct, and we were pleased to hear it. It was a reaffirmation of why India and Australia do make such good partners, our shared value system. I would also say, wearing my Group of 8 Chief Executive hat, that we also share an absolute determination to instill the value education has to an individual, to a community and to a nation. Of course, it's obvious that our two nations share more than our values, interests and objectives. And as we've heard mentioned previously, We also share the Indo-Pacific region. And so we share all of the geopolitical challenges visible in the region in 2020 as it pivots to the centre of world affairs, amid avid discussion about a new world order, or at least the same world order with a different range of emphases. Australia and India are engaging to address this. We're coming together more and more as part of broader coalitions, as seen in our mutual engagement with the US and Japan through the Quad, which has also been mentioned, in our deeper defence and strategic engagement, and by the elevation of the existing bilateral strategic partnership to a comprehensive strategic partnership in June of this year. There is a strong belief in Australia that both our countries and our governments can negotiate our way through all of that successfully. So while it's something to be recognised as we plan, it's not something that I will dwell on here today, and others have spoken to it. Living together in the region means we also share many specific challenges that we will need to continue to manage and resolve. We have those that affect our daily lives, our standards of living, our trade agreements, such as the need for improved dry land agriculture through agtech discoveries, managing climate change from both a fiscal and a living perspective, to water management, be it lack of water or salinity. To work our way through these, none of which are without complexity, and as two nations displaying mutual respect and friendship, we are indeed fortunate that our leaders share a deep connection, and that is clear for all to see at both a national and personal level. The G08, which I represent, is comprised of Australia's leading research-intensive universities, and we have long been involved both in India and with India. In fact, one of our first doctors and researchers into India in 1912, so some 100 years ago, came from the University of Melbourne in the state of Victoria. Her name was Mary Glowry, not only a medical graduate but a sister, the only member of a religious order to be allowed to practice medicine through special dispensation of the Pope. In a life dedicated to helping India's children, she went on to found India's revered Catholic Health Association. There are many stories that illustrate our bond with India, the two-way relationships that have benefited both nations. And today we continue to enjoy strong and jointly fruitful links with our Indian partners. Our bond is long and strong. Today, importantly, 3 G08 universities are engaged in very deep and long-standing Indian partnerships at PhD level. Since 2008, the Monash IITB Research Academy has been providing joint PhD training with the aim of using a solutions-driven approach to addressing global problems. Many of the projects also involve industry partners, so that ensures the research is suitable for use by business and industry and our communities. We've taken a lot of pride in the impact of these joint research programs, as both countries have benefited greatly, especially in those areas that I've mentioned previously, such as agriculture and water, and of course energy and medicine and many others. I would like to digress here to suggest that you visit the Group of 8 website when you have the opportunity to locate a stunning publication, which I happen to have at hand here, that we produced a couple of years back. It was launched in Delhi by our then Education Minister and now our Trade Minister, Senator Simon Birmingham, and it's called Excellence in India. It illustrates so vividly how much we've done together in research and the incredible societal impacts of that research, the real value that has been delivered to real people. We also have our University of Queensland IIT Delhi collaboration, and this has a goal-orientated project approach. It's cross-disciplinary and addresses grand challenges of interest to Australia, India, and the global community, and which of course involves strong industry links where possible. And of course, the University of Melbourne has recently entered into a collaboration with 3 IITs to deliver a joint doctoral degree program in which students receive 1 PhD degree jointly awarded by the University of Melbourne and one of the 3 IITs. These PhD programs are highly acclaimed because of the high quality standards they employ, of the students selected to participate in the research, and the calibre of the institution in both of our countries. It is a matter of pride that we have this commitment to excellence in the joint programs we establish. So you'll notice that there's a strong research focus in the examples I've set out, and that's not a coincidence. The Group of 8 universities are multidisciplinary and comprehensive. They offer a broad spectrum of high quality courses for high quality students in a research-rich environment. Our expectation of our students are high. Gaining entry to a Group of 8 university in Australia isn't easy. They are enrolled with the expectation that they will graduate at a level that enables them to choose advanced studies such as Masters or PhDs should they choose to do so. And the Group of 8 proudly offers those courses not only to Australian students but to high quality students from anywhere in the world, including India, who meet our enrolment criteria. In 2019, there were 10,305 enrolments from Indian nationals across our 8 members, which represents around 11% of university sector enrolments in Australia. Many of these students were studying at advanced level, 81% at postgrad or research level. So we're proud to represent the universities of choice for those students. And we look forward to welcoming more students from India when our borders open. And I note that we've touched on that. And as I say each and every time I come to India, which is often, there is a welcome mat out always. Again, if I can digress slightly, I thought it would interest you to know that we actually expect to see increased enrolments at the Group of 8 from Indian students who have gone to school here in Australia. That's because since 2016, India has become the nation whose migrants have increased the most in Australia. We're now home to some 592,000 Indians, which is a 30% increase since 2016. This makes India Australia's 3rd highest migrant location after India and then China, displacing our near neighbour New Zealand into 4th place. So it follows that we're looking forward to seeing many more Indian resident students at the Group of 8 as well. What they'll find are 8 universities distinguished by being ranked as world-class research universities. 7 of our members were recently ranked within the world's top 100 universities in the recently released academic ranking of world universities, and 1, the University of Melbourne, sits within the top 50. Research is in our DNA, if you like, and I know today's audience well understands that, especially because of COVID. High quality, rigorous research has never been more important to both a national and a global recovery and future prosperity. And that is as true for Australia as it is for India. COVID's many challenges are being worked on 24/7 as we speak across all of our universities. Not within living memory has the world been confronted with a more glaring illustration of how we must all come together if we're to overcome these and other challenges. On the other hand, never has the world had a better example of how we can come together to overcome these challenges. I'm sure I don't have to persuade today's audience that research has no borders. The best minds will find the best solutions regardless of what country they reside in or work from. That is simply what the global research family does. As we speak, for example, the University of Queensland is working on a vaccine candidate funded by the global body, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations. All around the world, scientists are collaborating as never before. We can get through this and other challenges if we work together. More and more, our future is based on the value of research, and the more the Group of 8 can work with India to take a lead in high quality and mutually beneficial research, the more opportunities will open for more young people from both our countries to aspire to and access a quality higher education and a research career that benefits us all. That said, COVID offers us far more than the opportunity to work together. So back to the glass half full. It also offers us a chance to take a step back and imagine higher education and research systems not as they were, but how they could be, and in fact, how maybe they should be. We've all faced enormous disruption, some disastrous disruption. We all have to rebuild. So why not rebuild into something better and stronger, rather than see the future as working hard to replace what was there pre-COVID? Frankly, and I know my Vice-Chancellors agree, what did work before will not work for the future. Too much has changed to go back to once what we had, whether it be people or practices. We do have a duty to our countries and to current and future generations of students to rethink how best we can rebuild. We can do that. We all know that we can. I was thinking about that rebuild when I reread India's recently released National Education Plan. This is a remarkable document that any nation would be proud of. Not only does it outline a new model for education delivery, but it sets out a vision that builds on the notion of higher education as more than a means to deliver education, but as a foundational experience to build well-rounded, engaged and responsible citizens. In fact, it goes to the very core of what education should always, and I emphasise always, be expected to provide. It recognises the critical importance of flagship research universities. It includes an ambitious proposal, but one absolutely within reach, to establish a group of multidisciplinary elite universities, India's answer to the Ivy League. So many of India's top students relocate to study in the US, which is very much their top destination of choice. But wouldn't it be amazing if they had the choice to gain an equally high level of education at home, should they choose to remain onshore? India can do this. It certainly has the determination, and we applaud that. Australia also has this Ivy League model in the Group of 8, hence our position in the world's top 100 universities, one of multidisciplinary, world-class universities built on the foundation of developing Australian minds and Australian talent. That then attracts the best and brightest from around the world who want to work and study within our universities. And we've done this, can I say, without the Ivy League's amazing advantage of extensive endowments, how we wish. Australia and the Go8 are happy to share our model with our Indian colleagues as they work to deliver on this vital goal. It would be rewarding to be considered part of such a development project. So much that can be done with friends and partners. But it goes without saying that we can also learn from your vision. We admire how India has actually started with that fundamental question: what is higher education for? And the answer that you've come up with: higher education is about knowledge development and training, but it is also about learning how to be a human being. None of us in this sector can be allowed to forget that or ignore that, and nor can we let our policymakers and our politicians forget or ignore that. My personal view is that in Australia, the role of universities is sometimes viewed as degree factories and not to build the inherently good person who can benefit the world from their personal growth and values at the same time. That being the making of a good human being was part of our job, was expressed to me by the previous High Commissioner of India to Australia, His Excellency Dr. Gondani, at a roundtable we hosted in Melbourne, actually, on the then draft National Education Plan in September. He wisely said, and I quote, "You don't make a carpenter out of a man, you make a man while building a carpenter." How wonderful for us if we could emulate this vision of yours in Australia. So let us please work together in partnership, both understanding and believing that it's clear the future can be a bright one, because no matter how awful the challenges to overcome, challenges also bring opportunities. And Australia and India have, as I've stressed a number of times this morning or this afternoon for me, very deliberately a strong foundation from which to build, and also much that we can learn from each other. We're also fortunate to have strong support from both our governments to make this happen. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has noted the importance of joining our best and brightest scientific minds together through the Australia-India Strategic Research Fund, the Australian Government's India Economic Strategy, which was mentioned previously, places education engagement, as we've heard, front and centre of the relationship. And of course, the two are linked. High quality research discoveries lead to knowledge development, which is fed back to society through education and training to create the highly skilled professionals who will support our future. So what we have is the circle of knowledge. And to those of us who hold higher education and quality research dear, there is nothing more precious we can give our future generations. The next question is where to from here, and that is one we must consider today. It's wonderful that we've managed to have this virtual gathering. We must use it to drive outcomes, because outcomes equals time well spent. There is a challenge, which we cannot allow to define our thinking, in when it will be possible to resume mobility of students and researchers between our two countries. While our borders are closed for now, and we don't know when they'll reopen, we can still plan for the brighter future which will come. And we have to be ready, because when they do open, and they will, we will have no time to waste. I'm a great believer in being ready to grasp those opportunities. Planning is critical, and we can do that in partnership as always. Ravi raised a number of important issues, and I don't in any way want to gloss over them. It's been extremely hard, and in fact, hard is a euphemism for what India especially has been going through. But I am here to reassure everyone that we are doing everything we can to look after the international students who are currently here and to make it as safe as possible for other students to return as soon as it is considered safe to do so by government medical experts. Universities do not get to make that decision. Border closures and health decisions are made only by government. We have been working closely with Australia's state and territory governments and the federal government to see if what are called secure corridor plans can be put in place. And those secure corridors would allow for small cohorts of our students who already have an Australian visa to begin to re-enter Australia under safe protocols. Those protocols, as we've heard, include strict hotel quarantine for 2 weeks before returning to uni, health checks before leaving their country of origin and on arrival into Australia, and a raft of other measures. Frankly, such a corridor plan would be exactly the same as we've seen used for the regular Air India planes full of Indian Australians who've been given permission to re-enter Australia in the past few months. The last such plane I saw land in my home city of Adelaide, where I am today, was just 2 weeks ago. So there is hope, and we've got something to base it on. You may also be aware, and we covered this just previously, that a pilot program to allow students into South Australia, where I am, to attend the 3 universities is currently awaiting Prime Ministerial sign-off. They're very, very close with that. The Northern Territory is also close to having such a pilot plan finalised for approval. The Australian National University, the University of Canberra and the ACT government are also advanced in their planning. However, as we know, that is on hold due to the very difficult second wave COVID outbreak in Victoria and continued small numbers of COVID in New South Wales. Australia has not been as quick to open our borders as some other countries, and that has been frustrating students and their families who have visas to study with us. I understand that, and I feel for everyone who is affected by this. And I know that each Group of 8 university has teams of staff making regular personal contact with their students to reassure them that we're doing our best, but that such decisions are unfortunately out of our hands. Today, I also wanted to take the opportunity to reassure everyone that this does not mean Australia is not eager to see life resumed on our vibrant multicultural campuses. On the contrary, it means that Australia is determined to make sure that our environments are as safe as possible, and we do not want to put anyone at risk. For that reason, we are taking a cautious approach with safety a key priority. So yes, it is frustrating, and it may take us a little longer than some other countries to get there, but rest assured, I do believe we will get there, and hopefully sooner rather than later. We certainly look forward to having everyone back, and we will be making up for time lost because our commitment to excellence will continue. I want to also reiterate that the Group of 8 has worked with our state and territory governments to provide as much support as we can to those students from India and elsewhere who are here in Australia as we negotiate our way through COVID. Support from our member universities ranges from providing emergency funds, accommodation assistance, IT support, food hampers, and importantly, mental health support. In fact, we recently, the Group of 8, co-hosted a webinar with the Australian Council of Social Services, our peak welfare agency, raising awareness of the issues currently facing some of our international students who are in Australia. And some of those stories that those students told us were simply heartbreaking. We were pleased to note Prime Minister Modi's comments acknowledging the care extended to the Indian diaspora, and I think, Ravi, you referred to this quote earlier, in Australia, especially the Indian students, that is our students during this very difficult time. And of course, I know you would be aware that the Australian government recently announced, as Tara just mentioned, changes to visa conditions that will now allow current visa holders who are studying outside Australia to use this study to count toward post-study work rights. It's a small example of what we can achieve in a very challenging environment. Australian universities, including the Group of 8, pivoted very rapidly when COVID hit to new forms of high-quality online delivery. And it's our strong belief that our quality education offering has not been compromised. 2020 has been a long and very difficult year, but back to the cup half full, we can still achieve much despite everything. This conference is a classic example of that. I'm sitting here speaking to you from Adelaide to an audience located across 2 countries, India and Australia. The future can be bright, and it is research driven, and we can make it happen. That, though, is on us as educators and as researchers. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you for listening to me.